Oh, I knew looking at the camera. Is that where I'm? Okay, I just want to make sure I'm here, bro.
You good now?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah, let's get it, bro.
All right. You ready? You ready for this?
Hello, audience.
All right, we are back with another video. CouchPotatoGM.com is the website. Couch Potato General Manager is the YouTube channel. We are here to talk about. So it's a lot of scuttlebutt about scuttlebutt. Is that the right word? Scuttlebutt.
Yeah, I guess.
Scuttlebutt all over Twitter. That's mainly where I'm seeing it. If I jumped on Reddit, I'd probably see it a lot in there as well. But there's a lot of talk about the Bengals at the number 5 pick. I think we all come to the conclusion, I mean, unless there's a surprise, that the first 3 picks are going to be quarterbacks. The 4th pick is kind of up for debate at the moment. Not sure what the Falcons are going to do. I mean, it may be the first 4 picks go quarterback, and then
possible.
Now you sit with all this sexy up at the top. With
gets really interesting.
Yeah.
At 5 with the Bengals.
Receiver, tight end, or are we going offensive tackle there, man? What are your thoughts? What you thinking?
So as you mentioned, there's been a lot of debate, conversation with respect to if the Bengals sitting at the 5th overall pick have an option of adding the top offensive lineman in the class, right? Which the general consensus is Sewell from Oregon, tackle from Oregon.
His arms are now long enough because people were kind of, you know what I'm saying. Is he strong enough? Is he healthy?
He is the guy that many anticipate will be the first offensive lineman off the board, offensive tackle off the board. The Bengals obviously struggled to protect the quarterback a season ago.
Yep.
Joe Burrow, the last year's first overall pick, he got hurt.
Yep.
Took a beating. Depending on who you ask, this is a no-brainer, right? This is not a difficult thought process conversation. Doesn't matter who's on the board. Right. You understand what I'm saying? So, but there has been a lot of debate whether a guy like Jamar Chase, who completely dominated a season ago, the NCAA, the SEC, and then of course did an incredible job during his pro day, which really got everybody else juiced up and enamored. People who may have been on the fence were like, whoa. After that particular performance. So, and of course that can sway things and it could lead to some miscalculations in terms of who you take as well. But certainly he has done everything he could possibly do in order to bolster his draft stock. So the question is, do you get Joe Burrow, the future of your franchise, another weapon, a top end type of weapon in this particular class, or do you get that offensive line solidified? Me personally, give me Sewell. It's not difficult for me. If you're talking Chase and Sewell, it's really not a difficult conversation for me. Personally, I don't think Chase is receiver 1. However, if all the receivers are on the board, right? If every single receiver in this draft class is on the board at the 5th overall pick, I'm still going with Sewell because of what the offensive line means, especially when you juxtapose it against what happened last year, all right? I understand the Bengals brought in Riley Reef. Of course, they invested a first-round pick a couple seasons ago in Jonah Williams. Neither player has played a full, well, of course, Reef obviously is a 9-year veteran. They're bringing him in on a 1-year deal from Minnesota. He has been average to above average for most of his career. Last season was a quality season for him, but generally speaking, he's been around average, maybe a couple above average seasons. He hasn't played a full 16-game slate since 2015. Then you look at Jonah Williams, whom we really like coming out of college. We think he's still going to be a very good player, right? He hasn't played a full 16-game slate in his 2 seasons because, of course, injury. So my thought process is, with Reef on a 1-year deal, to me, he doesn't represent the future.
Right.
All right? The offensive line, as we often discuss at Couch Potato General Manager, is the most important position group. You got a quarterback coming off a reconstructed body part because you couldn't protect him.
Right.
Do what's necessary to protect him.
Yeah, it's when you look at it like that, I think the choice has to be offensive line. I know that fans fall in love with the sexy. You fall in love with the catches, the run after catches, all of those things, and offensive line is kind of an afterthought. But when your quarterback doesn't have time to drop back and get it to those guys, it really doesn't matter. I mean, that's essentially what it comes down to. You know what I mean?
Right.
Ask Patrick Mahomes. And I keep hating to go back there, but it popped in my head. And
it's the most recent example of that on the biggest stage.
Right. And you're talking about a dynamic guy who could actually move around in the pocket, make people miss, and do, he's a magician, as they were saying in the Super Bowl. So, I think, man, it's tough. It's tough when you got two top tier players, and whether it's Sewell or it's Slater or Christian Durasaw from Virginia Tech, whomever it is, or is it Tevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State,
yep.
Whomever it is there, whoever you have, it's tough to be like, man, can I pass this up? Because we know they got a Tyler Boyd, we know they have
Tee Higgins,
who they drafted last year, who I mean, he looked good, don't he?
If Tee Higgins, here's the thing I don't think people truly appreciate. Now, of course, the dynasty guys, the fantasy guys, that may have been high on Tee Higgins, or were able to get him later in some of their rookie drafts. They're really excited about Tee Higgins. But the thing is that Tee Higgins, for the most part, in my estimation, was a first-round talent.
Right.
What happened to Tee Higgins last year, the reason why he fell to the second round, in my opinion, was because he wasn't able to participate in any of the off-season activities.
Right.
He was nursing with an injury. So that kind of depressed his value. And, of course, the Bengals didn't waste any time. They got him at the top of the second round. So the fact that you have Higgins, who's on Higgins and Boyd's still a relatively young receiver, really has blossomed as his career has progressed.
Yes.
I'm not suggesting that the Bengals don't need more weaponry. They don't need to add more pieces around Joe Burrow. They absolutely need to do so. My thought process is that you start up front. You start up front. You turn the offensive line not just into a capable group, because again, Riley Reif is a substantial upgrade to Bobby Hart. Let's make no question about that. All right, I just want to make sure we get that on wax for Headley. I want to get that on wax for Headley. All right, but what's wrong with making the offensive line a position of strength, particularly when you have a lot of receivers that can come in and contribute right away that aren't necessarily named Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith. You understand what I'm saying? So
it's a deep wide receiver draft.
It absolutely is. So and to me, it is easier to find guys to catch the football, make plays on the perimeter than it is to find guys who can be a stalwart along your offensive line for 8 to 12 years. To me, it's much more difficult to get the protection right up front. So don't play with this one. As like you said, as tempting as it might be because of the sexiness that Jamar Chase represents, adding him to Tyler Boyd and Tee Higgins, I think you got to do what's in the best interest of not only your quarterback, but your running game as well. Because the running game makes a difference. Let's not completely discount the running game aspect of it. So that's my thought process when you talk about those two prospects in particular.
The injury part of it, your bookends, your left tackle, your right tackle, your Reef, your Jonah Wimp, that injury piece is big. If both of them were healthy guys who've played seasons and hasn't missed too many games, maybe you roll the dice. But here I think you got to do the right thing by your quarterback. But let's go ahead and let's throw a wrench in the whole makeup.
Okay.
By the best player in the draft, in my opinion, and Kyle Pitts. He could be there. What are you doing?
So with Kyle Pitts being on the board at that point, I would be tempted more so than Jamar Chase.
Definitely.
Right.
Not
solely because, not because necessarily I think Pitts is a better prospect than Chase. It's the position, right?
Right.
Tight end is typically considered an extension of your offensive line. And I understand that is not Pitts' hallmark in terms of being an extension of your offensive line. But he competes.
Right.
He competes. I think it's a position scarcity and the unique talent that Pitts has at a position that isn't very deep. You know what I mean? In terms of what's in the draft class as well as what's in the NFL.
Right.
There's not an abundance. There's some guys with some ability. Don't get me wrong, but there's not an abundance of players with his type of ceiling at that particular position. So that I would be tempted. I would be hard pressed not to pull the trigger. And it goes beyond just the sexiness of having a perimeter threat, but because again, the depth at that position isn't the same as it is at receiver.
Right.
However, I still would do the right thing in my estimation and address the offensive line. So give me the best offensive lineman you think is in this class, and make the offensive line not just competent, make it a position of strength.
Let me ask, if you and I think comparing Pitts, because I've heard people are comparing him to Darren Waller, and probably rightfully so, and some people like to compare him to Travis Kelce. I don't think he's quite in the class of a George Kittle, just because Kittle is is a monster, and specifically speaking from the blocking part.
Yes.
And then if you wanted to throw in there a young Gronk, you could do that as well, right? But if you're, let's say that he is Kelce, let's say that's what he is, you're still going offensive. That's you hear what I'm saying? Or he is the best of Darren Waller, or a level above Darren Waller. That's where it gets tempting.
So it is tempting. It is tempting, and you have to be willing, in my opinion. I guess it just really depends on how you feel about this class in terms of the offensive line. I know there's some interior guys, and that seems to be some individuals' bigger concern for the Bengals.
Right.
Me, I'm of the mindset that even if you want to start Riley Reef and Jonah Williams at tackle this particular year, you can kick Sewell inside and then eventually move him outside. He has that ability, right? If you're willing to be aggressive at the bottom of the first round, then okay, we can talk Pitts.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? If you're willing to leverage that second round pick and a first next year in order to acquire one of the better upper echelon tackles in this particular class, not named Penei Sewell, then yes, I'd be open to that. But you have to be committed to that.
Right.
You have to be committed to doing what it takes in order to get a starting caliber offensive lineman, particularly at tackle. I think you can address guard later.
Right.
But particularly at tackle in this class to protect Joe Burrow. Again, Riley Reif is coming off a really good season in 2020. He had a very, very good season. However, for the balance of his career, he's been average, maybe slightly above average, and he has a 1-year deal. Jonah Williams is going into his 3rd season and is yet to play a full 16-game slate.
Right.
You also have to think ahead. You have to think ahead. And at the end of the day, the name of the game is to protect the quarterback. Yeah. You have to protect Joe Burrow. So, yes, Kyle Pitts offers a certain type of protection. Jamar Chase offers a certain type of protection. But unless you are willing to commit the resources necessary to go to climb back into the first and get any of those tackles that you mentioned, whether it be Tevin Jenkins, Darisaw, maybe Jalen Mayfield, whomever you think is to the back end of that first round, then I would consider Pitts under those circumstances.
Okay, I like the plan. I like the plan. I think Bengals fans, I think that's maybe, if you're thinking Pitts and you're thinking Pitts that strong, I think that would be the game plan.
Has to be.
And you got to be okay with giving up some goods to secure
that's
that tackle at some point.
It's in all likelihood it's going to cost you a first round pick next year. Yeah. But if that means you get Pitts and you get a starting caliber offensive tackle with a higher upside than a Riley Reif,
you'll take that.
I'm gonna take that. I'll take that.
Right.
Otherwise, give me Sewell.
Right. Yeah, I ain't hating on it. All right. Let us know down in the comment section what's your take. What are you doing? Chase, Pitts, offensive tackle. Man, that was. Listen, I don't know, man. I'm still thinking about Pitts.
I know.
I don't know, man. Like, subscribe, comment.